Welcome to Altitude Advantage. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, as always, we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Day 4 of Broncos camp, day 2 with pads on. And we're going to talk about a few things on the pod today. Big news with Courtland Sutton signing a 4-year extension with the team. We have reaction just on what we think of that. Also some impressions from the first couple days of camp and just kind of some breakdown that we have for you guys. We have you covered with everything from Broncos training camp. You can make sure you stay tuned here on YouTube, on social, as well as DenverBroncos.com. But, you know, the people want to hear from you. So I know that they're excited to hear your voice right now.
You can keep going. I'm kind of like a nice, it's post-practice. Wasn't too hot out there, but we've been working hard. I'm kind of settled in this nice chair. Just close my eyes and just, you can take it.
You're going through your visualizations?
Maybe play back something that I've said before.
Go to the visualizations. A nice air conditioning is helpful too. Well, as always, we start with the comments, what the people said. Last time we were on the podcast, we debuted some new gear. I have more gear now. I have, more stuff.
Yeah. Let's start with Dave Future, who says those hats are so stupid. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you listening and watching.
This hat's better. It's more appropriate size.
I don't know if that word is nice necessarily. But we read it, so you kind of got what you wanted here. Jawan Powell had our back, said loosen up. A lot of the teams have these along with other team merch.
Speak on it. That's that I didn't even buy you the big chains that should come with the big hats. So.
That's true. I thought the hats were a fun addition for, it was acclimation practice. It wasn't real practice. I would never wear that for real practice, but acclimation, that's fine. And I think they're still on sale, right? If you are lucky enough to have a ticket to Denver Broncos training camp. Monica, who comments a lot, thank you, Monica, for listening. Your hats are super dope. Keep them on. And then she said, our division, regardless, is tough. I've always said that. That's why I hate everyone in our division. Another hat comment, a lot of hat comments. In case you missed it, we wore big hats. Not small hats, big hats, giant hats.
They teamed up and made a super hat.
Joanne says, Elisa was cute with the hat on. Aric looked like a little kid. Don't hate me. Joanne? This now takes away from you sticking up from us. You're back to 0. You're back to even. David Scott Sandoval says, sorry, David, my apologies. Does Altitude Advantage have a preseason or season schedule? Preseason, just kind of vibes once a week. Once we get to the season, Thursday is the preview show. Friday, we'll try to have a preview with an opposing beat writer. Post-game Sunday, I just kind of get on and talk for 20 minutes to myself. And then Monday, we're here breaking down Sean Payton's press conference. Sometimes Steve joins us occasionally. So that's your schedule, David Scott Sandoval. Okay, we got more. Someone's trying to call me. That's not the time.
You're a busy man.
Bill Bell says, hat looks like something you wear to hide your head like Charlie Brown. And then Bill also says, you do not worry about playing the Chiefs except for when you're playing them. Letting KC have space in your head is a poor plan. Then he also says that the results of what Breeze told Bo are about tightening up his throwing motion. Doesn't appear to throw as hard to get there as quickly. Looks quicker, and that's impressive as he was already pretty quick last season. Bo, of course, spent some time with Drew Brees. Team Took says, I need both these hats. 100. Back. Anthony says that hat's great. Well, okay, so we're back in the positive hat comments. A few final comments. Ryan Carter says, y'all have me believing we will expect big things this year for the Denver Broncos. Super Bowl bound. Haven't had that feeling since Manning. I'm stoked. Let's do this. Broncos for life. Should be stoked. Exciting. Chase Daniel just told our intern, Kennedy, who's joining us for the season, that Broncos should have the Super Bowl on their mind. And then finally, Anthony Bomer says the season is so exciting, it's kind of scary. It's really hard to not have high expectations. For sure, winning football is back for the Denver Broncos. Those are the comments. If you want to have your comment read on our YouTube page in the future, go leave one. If it's nice, or, as you saw, if it's really rude, I might read it.
Yeah, you know what? We accept all.
Two ways to get your name on the show.
That's the way you look at it. Engagement is engagement. I mean, you stuck around to notice that the hats were on. So
it was right away. So
first 8 seconds.
Yeah.
As long as you stay 8 seconds.
That's all that matters to us.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, kidding.
The number 8 is on my mind because Courtland Sutton entering his 8th season
Like, what?
in the NFL because it's big news. Courtland Sutton signed that 4-year extension. He recorded 1,081 yards.
Number 4 be on your
career
mind?
high 81 career catches in 2024.
4-year extension.
Yeah, but if
The
you
number
look at
4.
the numbers though, 1,081. There's 8 in
8.
there.
Okay.
Career high 81 catches.
4. There's a 4 in his jersey number. True.
You divide 2 by 8. It's 4. No, it's not. Yes, it is.
No, not that way.
Really?
8 by 2 is 4.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm dyslexic. No, I'm dyslexic. All right. In my mind, it's the same thing. Anyways, we're getting off track because the important thing is that Sutton is remaining a Bronco, signed that 4-year extension. Obviously, he spoke to the media, and you just saw the joy in his face. And one of the things that he mentioned that I really value was he's like, I never wanted to be a distraction. Like, the fact that this contract is signed is just the way to just, it's business. It's out the way, but he's been here, and he's been such a great mentor to the guys both last season and this season. And I think he's just excited to just continue his legacy. He mentioned about, the biggest thing is for him to come back because he's been here through the thick and thin. And he's like, I want to be here now that Broncos country is returning to what Broncos fans are used to and what they deserve. And I think that that's the right mindset you have from a captain and the leader. And I know he has high praise.
Yeah, there's a lot here with this Sutton deal. I think we talk about the specifics of it, and like you mentioned, Courtland saying, I don't want to be a distraction. He wasn't in any way.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up during the offseason program. He was here for OTAs. He was here for minicamp. He was here for the start of training camp. I know there was some, discussion about his participation level in team drills, but he did participate in some team drills ahead of Saturday and Monday when he did not participate. I think overall he handled it about as well as you possibly could. And obviously both sides wanted to get a new contract agreed on and figured out. But you see around the league that these things can get contentious, and it didn't really feel like this got to that level. Both Sean Payton and Courtland said didn't feel like this was ever not going to get done. It was just a matter of when. So I think worth complimenting both sides in terms of how this was handled, and that did not become a distraction, did not become a negative, did not become contentious or any of those things. So that was good to see. I think there's 2 elements of this deal, and one is short-term and one is long-term. And I think starting with short-term, Courtland has a massive impact on this team. He is the go-to guy for Bo Nix. On third down last year, we talked about it yesterday on our analysis, he is number one in the NFL on third down in terms of first down receptions, receiving yards, plays of at least 20 yards. So like on third down and in the red zone, he's a go-to guy. He makes those contested catches. I was trying to think today of like, what's his best catch? And you realize just he's made so many good ones that it's hard to pick one, but he's certainly the security blanket or, whatever you want to call it for Bo Nix, that like when he needs someone to go to, he's going to Courtland Sutton, and it makes sense to keep him, especially after the rapport they developed last year, which brings me to the second point of kind of the now is that leadership, right? Is that he's a leader in the locker room. Sean Payton said he is a guy that is part of the solution always, and it isn't lost on me that as Sean Payton came in here a couple years ago and figured out how does he want to build this team, some veterans, whether for play or whatever other reason, aren't with this team anymore. And Courtland Sutton is a guy that they've prioritized keeping here, and that means something. And I asked Sean Payton about it, and he said, well, I knew pretty quickly the type of guy Courtland was and that I wanted him here, and called him kind of that example for everybody and kind of the pro that you want. And so those 2 things, the current play and the leadership, I think make this a no-brainer in terms of kind of where the Broncos are right now.
I think one of the biggest compliments that Sean Payton gave was he's always part of the solution. And I thought that was a really great compliment because, you have a lot of young receivers on this team, a lot that are going to take another step this year. You have obviously Pat Bryant coming in, and he's just one of the guys that he's not worried about that. He's like, I'm here to make this team better, and he lives and breathes, Broncos country. And I think when you have a guy like that where your coach sees you in that light, and he even mentioned like it means a lot that because Sean Payton has been around a lot of great receivers in his career. He's coached a lot of great receivers in his career. And so for him to be held in that regard, I think that holds a lot for Sutton. And I think that he also knows like, all right, I got to step it up now. It's like he mentioned like complacency scares me. Like I'm always trying to find a way to get better. I'm always trying to find a way to learn. And I think when you have that from a key guy, especially now you have your, quarterback going to sophomore season, you're able to continue to expand on that connection. And like you mentioned, the leadership really plays a part, but also the continuing to want to be a student of the game is also what impresses me the most about Sutton.
Yeah, he's been through a lot, right? Whether it's injury or being on some teams that have struggled, and the way that he's fought through that and kept that attitude has been really impressive. And he was walking around, high-fiving guys before practice. And, like, he is the epitome, as Sean Payton said, of what you want in a player. And I think the other element of it is that we talk about the short term, but long term, like you look up and all of a sudden he's kind of in that conversation with some of the most productive Broncos receivers of all time. He's, about 80 catches. I think it's 81, 83 catches away, and about 860 yards from passing Ed McCaffrey to be a top 5 receiver in Broncos history and join guys like Lionel Taylor and Demaryius Thomas and Rod Smith. Like he's good. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. Like he could do that this year. And certainly you would think if he doesn't do it this year, by next year, he'll easily do that. And so you're talking all of a sudden about a guy that was drafted in the second round and was kind of known as this big play guy. But the thought when he was drafted was like, hey, can he be that next guy after Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders? And to see it actually play out that way and, him have the 2 1,000-yard seasons and him have 18 touchdowns over the last 2 years, like he's starting to kind of have the success that I think he was probably always capable of. It's just the quarterback position has been rocky at times. And so the fact that it's now stable, like you mentioned with Bo, and you've seen what he's done the last 2 years with Sean Payton, I think it's like 140 catches and, it's like 1,800 yards or something like that and 18 touchdowns. Like this is who Courtland Sutton can be. And so, who knows? Maybe we're talking 5 years after he retires as a Ring of Fame type guy. And it's interesting because I think a few years ago, especially when he was coming off the ACL and it wasn't quite the guy he wanted to be, or a couple years ago when you're like, okay, who's going to be part of this quote unquote rebuild, right? Like you're unsure if he's going to get to that point. And so to see him get there and be so close to kind of putting his name up there with those guys, for me, it's really cool because I've been here, this is my 10th season, and like other than Garrett Bowles, Courtland Sutton's been here the longest. Like he's a guy that I've seen in this building for 8 years. And so really cool to see him kind of near this success and get the chance to put his name with those other guys. Yeah,
and I think just the camaraderie you see, at practice today, like just watching like the guys and they're interacting with fans and they're getting them going, and Bo is giving the ball to Sutton to try to make a pass, and it's just like that fun environment. And when I was talking to some of the media members, Diana Rossini, the Athletics senior insider for the NFL, she mentioned that she's like, there's something different about this training camp. And it was the first training camp she'd gone to so far on her tour. But she's just like, the vibes here are just different. Like you can just see the guys are buying into each other. They're buying into the culture. And you can see the fact that the vision is clear. Like what Sean Payton and what George Payton have done over the last few years, what they put together, it's given a very clear vision of what this team can be. And when you really step out there, and me just coming into here as the team reporter for the second year, it's cool for me to see the jump made from what we were talking about last training camp to now. And so I can only imagine what it's like for you. But when you kind of see the development, the continuation of Bo Nix growing and obviously Sutton being locked in, new weapons like Evan Ingram, you start to think, wow, like it's going to be a really fun year. Like just on paper, right? Obviously we don't jump ahead, but just like on paper you kind of see that. But what have been some of your first impressions over the couple of days?
Yeah, I think that there is a level of competitiveness that I think we've seen every year that Sean Payton has been here. It's part of what his philosophy is as a head coach, but I do think you see kind of an increased intensity tempo this year just because everybody's further along. I do think as far as Bo Nix goes that we've seen a step, like he just looks light years different than he did this time last year. It hasn't always been perfect, but I think, and I asked Sean Payton this today, it's worth keeping in mind that you're going against potentially the number one defense in the NFL. If you were doing this against a defense that wasn't all that good or didn't have a lot of playmakers and they were, plays that they were winning, you'd be like, is this a reason for concern? But like the fact that it is this good of a defense, and then like today the defense had success early, and then Bo Nix kind of in the final team reps battled back and made some good completions. Like that's encouraging and kind of gives me a sense that like when you play some other teams, you're going to be able to work it out and have success. I think to me there's two standouts so far in training camp, or maybe two guys that I've really been impressed with. On offense, it's Evan Ingram. And part of that is, like we said, Courtland, at least, it's Tuesday. This was his first like padded practice with team reps, and he did have a catch. But I just think the way that Evan Ingram has shown up every single day, catching a variety of different routes, getting the ball in space, making contested catches, and then just being a guy that Bo Nix looks at a lot, he, to me, feels like a guy that could be really productive this year and have a big season. And we've seen him have those catch totals in the past, and wouldn't surprise me if you see something similar again. Just the success that he could have in this offense is really exciting, and I think there's all this potential, and we talked about in the offseason, like what is he going to look like? I've seen it so far. Now it's got to keep going, and you got to do it in the regular season, but really encouraged there. The other guy that we've talked about a little bit is Dre Greenlaw. I think, especially when the pads came on yesterday and again today, you just feel this guy. He's all over the place. He's fast. He's applying pressure. He's holding up running backs. He's delivering, would-be hits. Like, this is a guy that I think could make a big, maybe even, it's hard to say this about a defense that was third in scoring last year, but like a transformative difference just in terms of what he's able to do. And I think maybe it was Chase Daniel, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Diana, but they said like maybe toward the end of the year, you look back at like this was a really big signing for the Broncos. Kind of maybe it was under the radar when it happened, but this could be a really big signing. And so he's just a fun player to watch. I love kind of like these off-ball linebackers that roam and make these big hits. And so, I would say Ingram and Greenlaw to me, as we're sitting here, 4 days in the training camp, those have been kind of the two guys that I'm like, man, it's been fun to watch him play.
Well, when Dre Greenlaw spoke to the media, he said a lot of things that popped out to me, right? It was like the first time he really kind of got a chance to talk about why he chose Denver. And he mentioned something that really kind of caught my attention. He said, when I met with Sean Payton, it wasn't a bunch of what ifs and but this. He was like, it was clear. It was like, we want you because you have this skill set and you will fit great into what this is. We are going to meet you where you are. You're the player as you are that we want. And he said a very sweet comment. He was like, growing up in the foster system, like not a lot of people wanted me. So to feel wanted is a big deal. And to be somewhere that I want to be, that I'm accepted for who I am. And not to say he wasn't before, but I think, you fit into something and it just clicks a different way for you. And he said, he's like, for the past couple of years, this defense has been really good. And now I get to be a part of it. And there's like that joy and that, kind of clean slate of like, I get to add something to this. And I think when you have a guy like that coming in who is a monster on the field, obviously he's coming in with Talanoa Hufanga too. And we've mentioned it, like on the field, scary. On the sideline, you're like, you're a really nice guy. It's like you find these guys that just fit the system, and that's part of what Sean Payton has done so well. It's like getting guys that are going to, yes, make a difference on the field, but you're going to make an even bigger difference in the locker room and galvanizing the guys, especially because teams are going to be, preparing for you now, given what they did last year.
Yeah, and listen, this next stretch of camp I think is interesting. You've got 4 more days in a row before a day off, and then, next week you go into joint practice and like you kind of get a sense of how you stack up against another team. So
it's going to be fun because we have a few ex-49ers on the team. So it's going to be really fun to have that joint practice.
And we have an ex-Bronco who works in the social media department.
Shout out Des.
So little return on both sides. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. But I think these next 4, 5, 6 days, whatever it is, before you get to that, are interesting to watch and just kind of see, you're going to get sick of each other, right? When you face off against each other every day, but can you keep that competitiveness going? Again, always knock on wood, stay healthy and continue to get ready for the season, because I think it's clear the more we see it, like there's something here and you just got to keep working and kind of try to get to that point.
Yeah, Bo Nix mentioned in his press conference, he said, eventually we're going to play somebody else. And when I talked to our Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater, I said, like, you know, when you continue these days, like, what do you kind of look forward to? And he's like, you know, he's like, from the player perspective, he's like, these days are fun because, you know, intensity gets up, competition goes up, you know, you're having fun out there. He's like, but you also have to remember, like, well, these are my teammates I'm going against. Like, I need to, you know, let up a little bit or just kind of talk to your guys about what you see out there. And that communication is key. So he's like, just continuing to grow that communication is also a big part of it. So we did get some news about a few guys from head coach Sean Payton. He did mention on Monday that inside linebacker Drew Sanders is expected to be out north of 4 to 6 weeks due to injury. He also mentioned that Alex Singleton will be undergoing surgery on his thumb, expected to be out about a week. Obviously, tough losses for those guys, but you mentioned like you're trying to kind of steer the ship as much as you can to go into the season as healthy as possible.
Yeah, and you know, I think especially with Sanders, it's tough because you want to see him get these reps. But Sean Payton said good news that it was not the more serious potential injury there with his foot. And then Singleton, you know, obviously tough news for him as he comes back from that ACL injury, but about a week, so not anything too significant there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the one having surgery on my thumb, but
they're built different.
Back sooner rather than later, it seems like.
Yes. And on a positive, to end this on a positive note, one of the things I really liked was, I believe it was Drake Greenlaw, when they asked him, you know, you've played a lot with a lot of guys like Fred Warner and like kind of his leadership. How does Alex Singleton kind of complement? He's like, man, I see a lot of those traits in him. And again, it just, everything that every guy says about each other is like the leadership skills or the way that, you know, I know who to go talk to about certain things. And for new guys to come in and just easily being able to identify like what guys in the locker room they feel they connect with the most, I think is really great. Obviously, we mentioned it's going to be fun once the joint practice starts and just the fun and narratives that go along with that. But I think it's going to be a really fun year. And again, we're easing into it. It's only day 4, day 2 of pads, but it's like it's going to start going. The next thing you know, like certain things, certain storylines, certain position groups, certain things are just going to start going to the top. It's going to be fun to analyze it. You ready for that?
I'm excited.
Remember, I told you got to have a lot more energy. Woo. That's the little thing we have. All right, guys. Well, that was it for this episode of Altitude Advantage. As always, I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have the mathematician who called me out for the wrong division and our lead writer, Aric DiLalla. So make sure you guys stay tuned on our social media, on our YouTube pages. We have instant analysis after practice for you guys, as well as got you covered here on the podcast. So make sure you guys stay tuned.